Alright, we finally got a conclusion to the first major of the year, which a lot of people presume to be a Kristin walk-in, but that could not be further from the case. Let's talk about what exactly happened and figure out how we got this new major champion. Now, unlike most events, the contenders for this win were very few, especially when it got down to the final round. The majority of the players that were actually seen on coverage were mainly just looking for a podium finish, which included Kristin, Heidi, Own the Dog Scoggins, and Valerie Mandujano. So starting off with Kristin, she was looking just kind of off, kind of like mentally out of it, and there were so many shots where it feels like she should just be dominating, getting those circle 2 putts, but that just wasn't really the case, especially when it got to final round. And this could be just like simply that she's feeling a little bit burnt out. She's had a lot of events back to back to back, or it could also be the fact that she is a bit injured and has, I think, some back pain. So all of this coincides with her just not really playing her greatest, has an overall rating of 985, which means that she will most likely not get 1,000 rated at the next rating refresh. But hey, even for Kristin, if she has an off round, similar to Peak Paul, she still finishes in the mix at 6th place. So next up, Own and Valerie. Honestly, Own was looking also a bit kind of like off her game, a bit jittery, had some moments where you just expect her to like have amazing putting, and while she had some great putts, especially a throw-in from the drop zone on, I think it was hole 16, overall her putting just didn't look the best. And in conjunction with Valerie's final round, they were just lighting it up on the chase card. It really had a fire that no one else had on lead card, which was a bit ironic, but it was definitely nice to see somebody playing good. And while it was definitely windy, these players were playing much better than lead card, and I really have to say that Valerie's form just feels so close to Mason's, and you can definitely tell that she's worked very hard to dial it in, and it seems like every time they cut to her, she was making a great circle 2 putt or having a drive that was like dead center of the fairway. So overall, a great finish for both of them, with Own taking 4th, even though she was so close to getting much closer to actually winning the event, but just kind of fell short at the end, and Valerie finishes in 3rd. And next up, a player that I bet you guys probably don't know that much about is, forgive me if I butcher this, Heidi Laine. She looked great on coverage. There was a lot of points where she was the best player on lead card, and especially with all those nerves, I can only imagine the amount of stress that you would be feeling. But with that said, she did finish 2nd at European Open last year, so this is definitely not her first foray with experiencing the stress of a major. But man, her game looked dialed. She had so many shots that were just perfectly clean through the fairway, made 10 out of 11 circle 1 putts, and besides a couple of double bogeys, her entire round just looked so freaking good compared to everyone else, and I really look forward to seeing how she finishes in the future. And with that, she finishes in 5th place. And then just a small honorable mention for fellow YouTubers, we have Miss Frisbee's, who finishes in 11th place, which I believe is like her best finish for a major, and shot way above her rating, with her event rating being 40 points above her rating, and her final round being 10-10, which is 70 points above her rating. And even though she finished with a bogey, she still got the hot round for the day. And starting out her year with 40th at Waco, this is definitely a good trend, and I'm excited to see if she does get any top 5 finishes for the rest of the year. But on to the true contenders, it was a battle between Eveliina and Missy. Now I'll be honest, it looked at points like there was nobody that really wanted to take it down. They had so many errant shots, errant drives, it was tough to watch at times. But with that said, it is a narrow wooded course that has a lot of obstacles and a lot of wind that will have your shots feeling a little bit messy at times, because it is just very hard to predict how that wind will carry. And starting out the round, Eveliina went big with an over the tree Sky Anheuser play that really seemed almost too aggressive, I would say. But with that said, it looked to be what she was comfortable with. So even though it felt kind of crazy to everyone else, I think it was just what she was feeling at the moment. She goes way out of position onto 2's fairway and actually starts her final round with a double, making it feel like Missy had it in the bag. But that was not the case, because they just could not get anything together, with Missy getting 3 bogeys in the front 9 and Eveliina having so many birdie chances but just falling short again and again and again. Now with that said, with her first putt missing, she still had some like 20-25 foot comebackers, and it seemed like she made it every single time, which to me is actually the more stressful putt, the comebackers, because if you miss that, then you're taking bogeys, and to me that's where really bad things happen. But she made pretty much all of her comebackers. And I think while Missy didn't look the best, I think she just played her game. She knows that a lot of her lines just don't really fit because she is mainly throwing non-forehands, so she just tried to play for par, it seemed, not be too aggressive, not push, and just kind of play on an Eveliina not playing good enough to gain strokes on her. But man, it looked like every single tee shot, Eveliina had the advantage, but then she would just get in circle 1, circle 2, miss her putt, and then we would just have another battle of can Eveliina gain at least a couple of strokes, or will Missy lose some strokes? So while the play was definitely not the best, it certainly had very tight contention where you were not sure who was actually going to take it down. But I definitely want to reiterate that overall, this entire event was a great display of Eveliina's putting. Sure, her final round was not the best, that's just a given, but her first 3 rounds were so much better, and it really became a situation of, I think Eveliina will make this putt, rather than we know she will not make the putt. And that included some phenomenal circle 2 putts as well. But with that said, I think the other sticking point for Eveliina is her inability to throw not full power. It looked like a lot of shots she would force an overstable driver or overstable mid, pretty much like full power, which would lead to some early tree hits and put her way out of position, making it a bogey at best, which is like best case scenario for Missy. So I think if she was able to tone it down just a bit on the power, then her accuracy would really skyrocket. But for the most part on tour, that type of shot that Eveliina does have does seem to work the majority of the time. So maybe it is just like this course where it becomes an issue, but I definitely did think that her drives were just a little bit too powerful and would put her way out of position.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
But for Missy, this honestly felt like the first time, besides maybe like some Kristin majors, where she could just basically coast by playing good enough in the final round. With her 7 under in the first round, if she actually played even the entire rest of the tournament, she would have tied Eveliina's score. So clearly playing even on this particular course was good enough for most cases. And on the flip side, if Eveliina just played even, she would have tied Missy's score. So I think there was definitely a bit of a mishap where people were playing just a little bit too aggressive or just not getting good putts to hit. And while you could blame conditions a bit, the chase card was looking so much better than lead card. So I think it was definitely more of the stress of the situation than actually being the course that led to the bad scores. And honestly, with all of the bad play of lead card, it looked like Owen actually had a potential to take it down, which would have been the craziest chase card win I think ever, but that ultimately was not the case. So with that said, Eveliina finishes 5 strokes behind Missy. Missy gets her first major win, even though she has had so many other wins that felt like majors, but this is the first official one, and here's what she had to say.
Oh wow, it hasn't even set in yet. I've just worked so hard, and it was one of the last things I wanted to do. And I hope it's not the last time, but I'm just so happy to finally get that major win.
So overall, the course, it just felt a little bit fluky, a little bit like you had to be lucky, and if you were unlucky, you'd be way out of position. And there were some holes that had like some random OB lines that were just kind of like weird, and it didn't really feel like it had a lot of cohesion. And especially looking at Missy's lines, she missed a lot of lines, but there were so many places where she just got lucky enough that it would skip close to the basket. And to be fair, that did happen to Eveliina a couple times as well, but it really seemed like luck allowed Missy to get so many strokes on the field, which is not kind of how I want a major to feel. I don't want it to feel fluky or lucky, but also the entire course just felt a little bit off, and it could be the fact that this is a brand new course. They actually had changes being made the week of the event, and for a major, this just feels totally not right, because if you think about it, if this was like an MPO tournament, I really doubt it would have been done so last minute. So it feels like the due diligence just wasn't really given to this event in the way that it probably should have been done. And to add on to this, there was no stats for the entirety of round 1. And honestly, at times it felt like the majority of round 1, 2, and even 3, it seemed like nobody was there was no fans. And this could be the fact that it's just weekdays and people have to do stuff, but it definitely felt just a little bit strange for a major to have this kind of presence, where it feels like this should be equivalent to USWDGC, where there are so many fans, where this should just feel like a huge event. And honestly, at times it felt like the importance of almost an A tier, because there was just nobody there. And then in addition to this, there was huge backups, and I'm not really sure if this is anyone's fault, but it definitely adds to the slog of a round if it takes way longer and you get to see less disc golf. But with that said, it did look close towards the end. So overall, a great finish for Missy. I would say a great finish for Eveliina as well. She stayed confident. Sure, her putting didn't look great towards the end, but she had so many good putts, amazing drives, and I think we will definitely see some more wins from Eveliina. So with that, what was your overall impression of this event? Do you have any thoughts about how it all ended up? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. And in a couple weeks, I'll actually be at Jonesboro as my first event having my media pass. So I'm so excited to get you real deal coverage of the event and hopefully some pre-event coverage as well. So thank you so much for watching. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.